So anyway, so I think Donna Brazile is about to join us. So let me let me wait for Donna. But she wrote a fantastic book called, I'm going to hold it up here, it's called Hacks. I thought the book was great. It gives her personality. It gives what she went through during the, 2016 election.
Yep.
I would encourage everyone to go out and buy this book. I say that about all my guests, but I really enjoy it. It was a very easy read. You get a sense for her personality, and a lot of things come out in the book that aren't necessarily talked about. So, I think you get a totally different picture when you read this book. And she is an amazingly accomplished woman. I actually think she's one of the most accomplished women in the world today. And I'm a huge, huge fan. I actually want to ask her when she gets on, if I was single, if she would consider, again, just a hypothetical.
That might be
I hold doors open for women, and I try to be nice. If I was single, I'm not single, I love my wife, but I would want to know that if she would find me at all, I don't know, interesting.
You can ask. I'm not sure you're going to get an answer you want.
Okay, I don't know.
Certainly ask.
Is Donna here? I think she's...
Yes, I'm on the phone. How are you?
Hey, Donna, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. How's your day going?
It's going well. It's still rather cloudy here in Washington, D.C. We've had a lot of precipitation over the last few weeks. But, all in all, it's a good day. And tomorrow I depart for the Hayes Book Fest in Wales, over the pond, so to speak, and I'm looking forward to it.
What's the Hayes? I have to ask you, what's the Hayes Book Fest in Wales?
Well, it's one of the largest book conferences over in Great Britain, and I've been invited to give a talk. In fact, I'm giving a talk on the 2018 midterm election. And I intend to talk about my book as well as some of the political undercurrents and the political developments here in the United States. So I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to do great. Donna, I don't know if you heard when I first introduced you, I told everyone that I think your book is a must-read. I think your personality comes out. A lot of stuff that people don't know comes out in your book, Hacks. And I would encourage everyone to read it. Did you enjoy, or was it a cathartic process writing the book?
It was difficult. I started writing this book almost a year ago. I went out to California to speak at the Panetta Institute along with David Gergen, my former colleague at CNN, and Bill Christo, who is the editor at the Weekly Standard. While talking to former Defense Secretary and Budget Director Leon Panetta, former member of Congress who I've known for a long time, we started talking about the 2016 election and what went wrong. And I started telling him about the hacking, our interactions with the federal government, the way in which the Democratic Party responded, and the lack of acknowledgement at the time from the Republicans to work with us to preserve and strengthen our democracy. As I was talking to Secretary Panetta, it just dawned upon me that perhaps I should write this book. I approached my agent, who told me there were too many political books. I found a new agent. I found someone who was willing to help me write it because I wanted a journalist, somebody with journalistic credentials to assist me with, the fact-checking and all of the other material. And we did it in 8 weeks. So I am not only thankful for my team, my agents, but I'm also thankful to Danielle Martin, who helped me out as well.
Wow.
It was a great read. I read it in, I think, like a long weekend. It was just a page turner. And one of the things came out is you're a very, what I call, salty woman. You don't mind, you curse once in a while. You get a real sense for you in the book. When you lose your temper.
I can't change myself. I'm very authentic. Like most people, I make mistakes. I'm a sinner. I learn from my mistakes. I try to grow each and every day of my life, meet new people. And I believe that it's important as human beings that we listen. There's a reason why, as you well know, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I spend a lot of time listening to people. But I wrote this book because I believe there were very important lessons that we should learn in 2016. One, we should not repeat them again this cycle. And two, we need to take steps to protect our democracy, from everything from our voter registration database to our polling sites, to our voting infrastructure, to our grids, to our personal data. There's so many lessons that I wanted to share with the American people, as well as a Democrat, I wanted to talk about the primary process in 2016 and some of the things I learned as a result of the joint memorandum of understanding between the Clinton campaign and the DNC staff. That put us in a very tough position throughout the process of trying to get our job done, which was to reach the American people and to help candidates up and down the ballot.
Right.
Donna, I want to talk about the election, and I certainly want to talk about the book. But first, if you don't mind, I want to talk about you, because it seems to me, first of all, I'm amazed by you. You've broken at least, I'm going to use the word, 2 glass ceilings. You were the first African-American campaign chair, Al Gore's campaign chair, and I think the second only woman campaign chair, and you were chair of the DNC twice. Do you ever kind of look at your life and take a step back and say, with amazement and look back and say, wow, I've really accomplished an unbelievable amount of things in my life? Because I don't know if too many people
I got involved in politics at the age of 9. And the reason why I went door to door knocking on doors in my neighborhood back in Louisiana is because we had a candidate running who promised to build us a playground. This, of course, took place about a year after Dr. King's assassination, 4 years after the passage of the Voting Rights Act. I was inspired by the generation of activists who marched to make a difference in not just my community, but marched to make a difference in the country. So from an early age, I felt like I received a call, and that call was to serve a larger purpose. And throughout my entire adult life, I've tried through the political process. I mean, we have other ways in which to change society, but for me, it was through the political process to get involved. And as you know, I was able to become Al Gore's campaign manager in 2000, and the year 2000 I actually became campaign manager in 1999. Served out my tenure. I've been on the DNC since 1997. I have served in various capacities, from an at-large member to the co-chair of the Rules and Bylaws Committee, to the vice chair for civic engagement and voter participation, to serving as interim chair of the Democratic National Committee twice. As I tell my friends and my family, there will not be a third time. Donna is not going to step up again. The last one was a little bit bruising, Jack. It was bruising in the sense that no one believed what was happening to us. Everyone thought that we were a bunch of liars out there trying to come up with some reason why Hillary would not win, when in fact we knew about this. Our emails were hacked and stolen and distributed without our permission. Our personal information was put on the internet, so people felt the desire to attack us, to harass us, to threaten us. And then the worst part was not just the media, but the way in which those emails were used to create discord and division. The purpose was to sully Hillary Clinton, to discredit the Democratic National Committee, to harm people involved in the process, and ultimately to sway the election to Donald Trump. We now know more as a result of the multiple investigations, but I still believe that we're not on the right course. One, we should have had an independent commission that did not involve members of Congress, because we knew that members of Congress would be playing cover-your-ass politics. Sorry, I had to say that word.
That's all right.
And second, we wanted to get to the bottom. I mean, when someone is attacked, whether it's a company like Sony or Equifax, which is a financial service firm, we have to take prudent steps to ensure the integrity of not just a company or a service, but the integrity, in the case of the Democratic National Committee, the integrity of our electoral process. Unfortunately, we were not given that opportunity. We had to conduct a race at a time when, by the way, our emails, our ability to communicate with one another was being constantly attacked by a foreign government. And I don't know about you, Jack, but one thing I'm not equipped to do is to fight a hostile foreign adversary with nukes and the kind of cyber capabilities that can destroy one's ability to communicate.
I don't know about you, but again, I don't want to focus too much on the Russian hacking incident, but are you really surprised that the Russians tried to affect or hack our election? Because it seems to me the U.S. has been trying to affect other countries' election for years or decades. I don't mean to be unpatriotic, and I'm not saying we should tolerate the Russians' trying to hack our election, but it seems to me we're at cyber war with a bunch of countries now. Maybe we don't talk about it, but just curious.
Well, there's been attempts. I'm sure, if one looks at the history of the United States and our ability to seek out information and perhaps infiltrate election systems, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of some historical evidence of that. But, if this is the new norm in politics, then we should be made aware of it. We should not just be made aware of the fact that the United States may have, quote unquote, this is a new form of warfare that we are now engaged in, and whether it's the United States or Great Britain with the Brexit vote, whether it was the German presidential election, the French presidential election, or a host of elections in the former Eastern European countries, this is an area that we as Americans should be quite aware of it. Look, Jack, when you go and cast your ballot, you want to make sure that your ballot is properly counted. You also want to make sure, since you're a registered voter, that no one removes your name off the voter rolls 2 weeks out of the election or change your precincts. So we need to be aware of this, not just as Americans, but we need to be aware of this new form of asymmetrical warfare that is happening as we speak.
Right.
I agree, and I think we're in it. Do you think it seems the country is so divided and it's so partisan between, I guess it's a 24-hour news cycle and the social media world? It's just so full of hate. What can we do? Because it seems like we're not on a good course as a country. Whether you're conservative or liberal, it doesn't matter. But it seems the idea of working together is gone, and compromising is a bad word. And I know I believe that you don't believe that should be, and I think you believe that people should work together. But what can we do as a society to try to get back to some sort of government that works together, that people reach across the aisles, and one side is not all good and one side is not all bad, for the sake of the American people?
I think that's a good question. And in large part, the Russians were able to divide us along the existing partisan lines that exist today, not just in terms of issues, immigration, Black Lives Matter. We know that they also tried to use phony advertisement on Facebook. We know that there was a social media campaign utilizing advertisement from the aggregate of data that they were able to get and compromise. So again, we have to be smart about our politics. We have to inform the American people, and we have to be better prepared for future elections in which other foreign actors or foreign states decide that it's their turn to meddle in our affairs. But the hyper-partisanship, this is not the first time our country has been at war with itself over values or over party politics. So, I mean, you can go back in history and come up with several different instances where the country was really at a boiling point. We're at a different tipping point. I think we're at a point now where we can't get much done. It's hard to get much accomplished when two political parties agree on one goal, which is we need to improve and upgrade our infrastructure, but we can't come up with the means by which we do it. Do we tax state and local entities? Do we use the existing pipeline of revenues that's coming in from the repatriation of taxes coming from abroad? When we can't agree on common sense solutions to immigration reform, then we pit Americans against each other. So I think we have to get back to common sense politics, whether you're liberal, conservative, or moderate. It's not about who you are. It's about where the country is going. And we have to find common sense solutions. But if the goal now of party politics is just to hold on to power and to wield that and to exercise and wield that power to hurt the other side or to demonize the other side or to somehow or another destroy the other side, which I think is what's happening now, then that is the kind of politics that we need to stop. We need to understand what's at the root of it. We need to look at the amount of money that's flowing in our politics. And I'm not just talking about the money that you and I might see on the internet. I'm talking about the dark money that we don't know that's flowing from foreign governments, from corrupt individuals, or people are able to give to, say, the entities that they believe will carry out their agenda. But it's causing a lot of pain, and we're unable to work on behalf of the American people, and that should concern all of us.
It does. This is Todd, by the way. And first
Hi,
of
Todd.
all, I'm very impressed by everything you've done in your career. Many people probably don't know, along the list of accolades that Jack and you just talked about a few minutes ago, one of the things you, at least that I read, that you were instrumental in was getting Dr. King's birthday to be a national holiday. Can you talk about that and your involvement in that and how that process went? And because I think it's a very important day, and I think he was a very important man, and I think it's great that we celebrate him.
Well, I came to Washington, D.C. at the ripe young age of 21. And I had a job, which was great. I was very much involved in student activism and helping students who, like myself, had to struggle and find money and raise money and beg for money and grants and so forth. So while I was working on that project, I met Coretta Scott King. I got deeply involved with Stevie Wonder's effort to make Dr. King's birthday a national holiday. It took about 2.5 years of my life, but it was the best thing I've ever done in terms of my political career because I was able to travel all throughout the country. I was a part-time lobbyist, a part-time activist, a part-time organizer, a part-time fundraiser, and I did it from the bottom of my heart because I love Dr. King. I love what he stood for. I love the fact that as a young girl, I got a chance to meet so many people who worked alongside him, who were deeply involved in the civil rights movement. And this was my opportunity to give back and to pay it forward. And every January, I try to use this period of my life to either talk to young people about the importance of the civil rights struggle or to use it as a day of service to reflect upon the work of Dr. King and many others in trying to improve our country and our communities.
Great.
What would you think Dr. King would have said about the Obama presidency? Not Obama's accomplishments or whether he was good or not. The fact that an African-American man was elected president
Twice.
I forget what year he first became president. Do you think Dr. King would have said this is unbelievable, or could he have predicted such a thing?
Well, first of all, I think Dr. King would have seen this moment in our history. As you know, the night before an assassin bullet took him away from us, Dr. King went to the mountaintop, and he said, we as a people will get to the promised land. He wasn't just referring to black people. He was referring to, I believe, all of us as Americans, as citizens of this global universe that we're part of. And Dr. King saw the future. He was, a young man, barely 38 years of age, taken away from us at this young age, starting his career, not just as a preacher, but also as an organizer. At the age of 26, Dr. King would have been proud of the moment that we all celebrated in January of 2009. But Dr. King never would have stopped protesting. He would have protested the fact that there's still too many homeless people in our midst. He would have protested the fact that there's still too many kids who are going to schools that don't allow them to learn. He would have protested the poverty. He would have protested the bloated defense budget. Not that he would not have cared about our men and women in uniform. Dr. King would have said no 21st century nation should spend such an outsized portion of his money on ornaments and not on the people that are actually serving within it. So I think Dr. King would have stirred the conscience of America throughout his entire life, with or without a black president, because Dr. King was not just Democrat or Republican, black person or white person. Dr. King was about finding people of conscience, no matter who they are, where they live, what religions they profess or what religions they did not profess. But Dr. King was about moving us beyond where we are into that promised land.
Do you think there are any what I call real leaders today, Dr. King types, Ronald Reagan types, whether you agree with his politics or not, but real leaders today?
Well, I want to, first of all, give a shout-out to Reverend William Barber, who is leading, as we speak, the Poor People's Movement, the Poor People's Campaign. Dr. King would be proud of what Reverend Barber, who is the president of the NAACP in North Carolina, he'll be proud of what he's doing in others. Dr. King would still be proud of John Lewis and the service that he has rendered to our country. He would be proud of our friends, our brothers and sisters from Parkland, the Parkland community, who have rallied so many young people across the country. Dr. King would still be, as I said, a drum major for justice. He would never sit down and celebrate what he accomplished. Dr. King would be stirring our conscience until we were able to all get to that promised land.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned Parkland. We're actually having one of the fathers of the slain children on our show after you today. So, I'm glad you gave that shout out. That was great.
Donna, what gives you your motivation? You are an unbelievably driven woman. You don't want to talk about yourself that much, and I keep going back to you. But what gives you the motivation just to keep going and going and going?
Well, there are times when I, too, like everybody else, I get tired. Like I said, I make mistakes. I'm a kid who constantly try to do better with my life and try to give back. But what motivates me is the same thing that has motivated me all my adult life. I want to make a difference. I want to serve. I want to help my country, help my community, and I believe in people. I love people. I want to inspire hope in others. I want to motivate that next generation of Americans to serve. I want to help identify the next Barack Obamas, Hillary Clintons. You name it, I'll say it. I want to inspire that next generation to take their seats at the table. I try every day to follow 3 or 4 new people that I've never heard of before, but somehow or another they're out there doing the Lord's work, or they're trying to make a difference in their community. They're trying to pick up people, from the outskirts of hope and bring them back to the circle of opportunity. Or they're struggling to make a way out of no way. Those are the people that I live with. Those are the people that I believe in, and those are the people that inspire me each and every day. I was inspired yesterday when I saw a couple of friends who work at Starbucks go to their seminar or their whatever you want to call it, their training session, and they looked at me like, well, I don't know why we're doing this. I'm like, you're doing it because you're leading by example. That's what inspires me. That's what inspires, I think, a whole bunch of people to try to do better. And that's why I'm still out there engaged. I don't have a formal title. I don't need a title. I don't know the last time I've gotten paid by a politician. When I was chair of the Democratic National Committee, I served without pay. When I left, they compensated me because they wanted me to, fill in my retirement account because I used my savings. But I believe in it. 20 years ago when Bill Clinton was being impeached, I left my good-paying congressional job, went over to the DCCC at the time, that's the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, volunteered, and finally someone said, well, Donna, you got a mortgage, you got to pay your rent. I said, that's true, I forgot about that. But I care about my country. I care about our future, and I'm worried about where we are. We're normalizing bad behavior. We are normalizing people who go out there and inject hatred in our political bloodstream. And so that's what motivates me, and that's why I cannot rest until our work is done.
Do you enjoy being at the center of the storm? It seems like you're always, around, always a battle. Or would you prefer to kind of do some gardening and spending time in New Orleans? Or, do you like that fight?
This is a strange way of saying this, but throughout my entire life, even when I was a young kid, I found myself in a position where I was called upon to serve. And rather than say no and run home, I would always say, of course, I can do it, thinking that it would just take up a couple of days of my life and I can get back to whatever normal is. Yes, I like most Americans. I want a garden. I like to drink wine and cook and have my friends over, play cards and play old vinyl records. But I'm driven to succeed because I see a need out there. I'm the third of 9 children. I have 17 nieces and nephews, and yet I raise money each and every month of my life to help some other kid who might need some help to go to school. So, no, I'm just one of those hardworking people. I'm like my parents. My mother was a maid. My father was a janitor. I don't have a problem cleaning up other people's shit, but I get tired of it sometimes.
I understand. You need
hear you.
You need a rest. So, some specific questions. What do you think of term limits?
I believe that it's one of those situations where we want to begin to put a lock on the door because people don't know how to get out, or they don't know how to stop serving. I've never been a big fan of term limits, but I'm not a fan of gerrymandering either. So I would hope that we would figure out a way soon to open up the door. I'm really worried about the Democratic Party, and I say this as somebody who loves the party, served the party, and will continue to help the party. But we need a stronger bench, and that's why I applaud the wealth of new candidates out there. I applaud the number of women and minorities who are running. I'm very excited about Stacey Abrams in Georgia. I'm excited about London Breed in San Francisco. I'm excited that we have a wealth of new minority candidates, new young candidates, and I want to support them because I believe it's their turn and they deserve to have a seat at the table.
We've done a bunch of shows in the past. I'm sorry, Todd, let me just get this one question in. We've done a bunch of shows in the past, and we have more coming up on the criminal justice system. I should call it how unjust the criminal justice system is and how it needs to be reformed. And it seems to me that we're at a pivotal time where you have both parties are saying there needs reform, but it's not being done. Any insight, or do you have any thoughts on just the terrible criminal justice system we have? And I shouldn't say terrible because we have a lot of great law enforcement people, but it's just an unjust system to so many people.
When you think about the number of men and women in prison for nonviolent offenses, think about that.
It's
Think about the number of men and women who, once they have been arrested, can't find jobs, cannot return to their community to make a living to support their families. We need criminal justice reform. We have a disproportionate number of people of color locked up in jail, and many of them, as I mentioned, are serving nonviolent sentences. And we have another portion of people in jail who are there because we decided to crack down on one form of substance abuse, and people had to pay a harsh penalty. It's remarkable that today with the opioid crisis, we all say that people need help, but when people were turning to what I like to call the cheap high of crack cocaine, we said we got to get them off the streets and put them away for life. And now look at where we are. We need criminal justice reform. Over the last couple of years, I've sat down with Senator Rand Paul. I've sat down with Senator Tim Scott. I'm willing to sit down with anybody, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Socialist, Communist, Libertarian, Green. Look, I don't give a damn what you label yourself. I care that we have to bring these people out of this prison industrial complex, the private prison industry, and we need to reform the system right away. This is at the heart of what Black Lives Matter has been talking about. It's the heart of why Colin Kaepernick has bended his knee during the playing of the national anthem to draw attention to it, and we need to continue to draw attention to what's happening with our criminal justice system.
Right. I mean, how do you reform things like this that are so entrenched in our society? I mean, there are so many things that we can mention, not just the prison system and the justice or injustice system, but also, things like gun control and things that are really just miring our country, decades behind where we should be as a society. because they're so entrenched in the fabric of our society. How do you fix stuff like that? That really, I mean, it comes from the very founding, and there's just things that are just passed on from generation to generation and accepted as truths, but really they're outdated, awful things. I mean, we really need to rewrite a lot of stuff.
Well, first of all, I think all of the remedies that we've been talking about, and some of them you've mentioned, we already know what policies we have to impact, what type of laws that we may have to review. The problem is leadership. We don't have the leadership at the top, so the leadership has to come from the people. When you see Congress, stepping and fetching and not doing the work that they should do, when you see the Trump administration sending out mixed signals, then we have to go to our state and local levels. Let's not forget that we have governors, and they're part of the problem, too. We have state lawmakers, and we should not ignore city councils, sheriff positions. We have to take an active interest in our own democracy and saving ourselves from these harmful policies, but we need to speak up. We need to educate. We also need to get the masses involved through our churches and other nonprofit organizations, because they, too, sometimes become silent in the face of injustice. And it's time that we stop paying our preachers to have nice private jets and Gulfstream jet. I was reading something online recently, and someone said that there are preachers trying to raise more money for another church and another jet. I'm like, that is not the purpose of going to church.
Right.
The purpose of going to church is to hear the word and to go out there and act upon that word. But no, people are not doing that. So I would hope that whether it's criminal justice reform, support for higher education institutions, for pre-K, for universal health care, for infrastructure, for the jobs of the 21st century, which will involve technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, we need to step up and start telling our political leaders, whether they're running for president or city council or whatever in between, we need to tell them that we need to have solutions, not just talk about the problems. We need to look at ourselves and come up with some solutions.
So I have a thing that I think would be a solution. I'm actually very nervous to unveil this to you, but I respect you so much that I want your feedback. I tell people close to me when I'm in political conversations that if I were ever running for office, the top of my platform would be the following sort of directive. And I call it some variation of the 1-year plan. And what it means is I think that our youth is the most important people, to help change, enact change. And so every single person in America, no matter who they are, when they graduate high school, owes this country 1 year, period. No matter who you are, who your mommy is, who your daddy is, you owe the country 1 year. Now, you can spend that year in various capacities. I have no idea how feasible this is, but you can go into one of the armed services, as a soldier, or even as an engineer or someone who's an analyst. You can go in to build infrastructure. You can go into the park service. You can go into whatever part of this country to improve this country needs people, needs youth, and needs people to help out. And they give a year of their life, and in exchange, you get 1 year. Once you finish your year after high school, the government gives you a year that you can, for tuition, or for whatever it is that you want to do, grad school, tech school, something like that. If you want to spend more than 1 year, you're certainly welcome to, but everyone owes 1 year. I think it'll cut down on entitlement by this generation and by all generations prior to them, and I think people will be more tied to improving this country and seeing that it gets better. I want to hear what your thoughts are on something like that, and because you are, in touch with so many powerful people, maybe you can get the right person to enact something like it.
Well, I think it's a good concept. I think we need to, again, take these concepts and try to implement them at the state and local level. And somehow or another, I believe that once we fertilize the electorate with good ideas, they will pick it up and they will make sure that it blossoms into a reality. The way good ideas are fertilized is that we got to talk about them. We got to go out there and inspire people with this message. It's time to give back to pay forward. And most people want to do that. They just don't know how. But I think it needs to be part of every campaign platform in 2020, that everybody will have a national service component. Last night on Twitter, I said that we should denounce racism. We should denounce all forms of
Amen.
bigotry. We should tell candidates, let's stop pledging to, most candidates like to take these pledges. I'm not going to raise your taxes. Well, I want candidates to pledge that they're not going to divide me along racial lines or gender lines or sexual orientation or any other line. We need to put this into the political marketplace and sell these ideas with passion and enthusiasm and see if we can fertilize the electorate with it.
Thank you. We got a question actually through Facebook. I wanted to ask from our audience. They want to know, you're so great, you're so involved. Why don't you ever run for office?
I have worked on 56 congressional campaigns, 19 state and local campaigns, 7 presidential campaigns as a paid staffer, and 3 as an advisor. I love politics in all of its forms, but I've always seen myself as somebody who was willing to go out there and shake the tree. I'm a tree shaker, not a jelly maker. So tree shakers like myself, probably it's best that I don't run for office and spend every 2 years, every 4 years or whatever, trying to curry favor with the voters. I prefer to shake the trees. I like to shake things up.
Are you too opinionated to run for office, you think?
I probably have written more, tweeted more than most human beings, and I'm not afraid of people bringing up my record. I just want them to get it right when they bring it up. But no, I'm not afraid of facing the electorate. I know who I am, and I have no problems telling people about my life. Some of it has been publicized because I've held prominent positions. I still have just a teeny bit of privacy. People don't know what I put in my gumbo unless they taste it. But the truth is that I'm very passionate about the things I care about. And at the age of 58, or as I tell my nieces and nephews, I'm 29 for the second time. I just want to serve out the rest of my life doing what I've done all of my life, which is, challenging the status quo and trying my very best to serve my community and serve my country.
So let me ask, you brought up your personal life. I have to ask you a question. You don't have to give an answer now. Okay,
no.
I'm a 50. Okay, it's not going to be so off base. I'm a 56-year-old white Jewish middle-aged guy. I'm a little overweight, but I hold the door open for women. And to be honest with you, I've told you by email, I find you intoxicating. I don't know what it is. It's the saltiness, it's the power, it's the drive. I'm happily married, and I love my wife. I'm going to go home to my wife. Hopefully we'll stay married for 80 years. But if I was ever single, would you consider buying you dinner or something like that?
Oh, boy.
Well, let me just say this. And I travel all over the country. I love people. I love to interact with people. I love to sit at a bar, man. I mean, if you talk about one of my habits, you probably saw it in my book. I like to cuss. I scream at the TV. I've cussed out more football, basketball, baseball, soccer teams than any human being. I am a true blue. I love the flirt. I'm watching my mouth these days because I want to be careful what I say, but I admire people like you because of your drive, your energy, your insight, and the fact that you are out here trying to educate, trying to inspire hope, and you're trying to stir stuff up as well. So I don't know if that's an answer, but I'll just say this. If I'm in your neck of the woods or you're in my corner of the globe, let's have a drink or two. The first one is on me because I would love to meet you. The second one, let me just say, you'll have to dig in your own pockets.
To quote the great Jim Carrey, so you're saying there's a chance,
There's a chance. I'm excited. Donna knows I've been very, very persistent.
And Ty, you're welcome to join us. I'm not into threesomes.
Wow.
You can
Oh, my
clearly
God.
come.
No.
Okay, day made.
Donna, I know you got to go, but I just have a couple quick questions just from your book, okay? Because, again, Hacks, it was an unbelievable book. I want to promote it because it's great, and it's, I think, one of the better reads of the political season. And I think people will get a tremendous insight into the election and into Donna from reading the books. And I really fell in love with her from reading the books. Quick question. DNC had no real financial statements? Did I read that correctly?
When I was an officer, I never saw a financial statement. Now, I trusted Brad and others who were part of our finance team to tell us what was going on. But as chair, I demanded to see it. I wanted to know what was on the books. I could tell you that our monthly output was $3.5 million. I got it down to $2.8 million. And one of the reasons why I wanted to get it down, because we were paying consultants $25,000-$30,000 a month, and we were broke. And I believe that money should be going toward helping win elections, not paying people who live inside Washington, D.C., to have a big fat contract. I got in a lot of trouble for that. A lot of people still don't return my emails. They don't call me back. I'm sorry, they won't be able to taste my gumbo. But the truth of the matter is that the DNC is a great institution run by good people, strong people, people who care about this country. And my job as a party leader, a party official and chair was not to answer to the donors, but to answer to the donors as well as all of the stakeholders, including the members of the DNC and as well as the voters and those who contribute, whether it's $5, $15, or $25 or $25,000. My job was to answer to everybody.
Did President Obama help Hillary Clinton enough?
You know, that's a question that the president will have to answer. I know there's a story out breaking today on the New York Times that, you know, he was caught by surprise. I can tell you this much. During my time at the DNC, the president, every time we went to him and said, we need help, he helped us. We did the same with Michelle. And in fact, Michelle at one point said that she was only going to do 3 more fundraising events. And I said to the First Lady during that time, we need 2 more, and she actually did 4. So I want to say, and I'll go on the record saying this, that I think the president put his heart into the election. But unfortunately, we came up short. And we came up short in areas where we took for granted. We took people in Michigan for granted, Wisconsin for granted, and we took people for granted in Pennsylvania. And we should never take anybody for granted, especially in those so-called battleground states.
Do you think that the politicians and the people in power in D.C. understand how hurt and how hurting the average American was? And do they get that now? Because I think a lot of people were hurting during the election. I think, to be honest with you, our leaders didn't get it and still don't get it.
You know, I think people in D.C. are often attacked for things that people in other places don't understand. We see it all. We see not only what's going on inside our little small bubble here, but we also see the country. I know I see the country. I was out in Ohio this weekend. I can tell you from, you know, my experience in Ohio, or last week I was in Paoli, Pennsylvania, campaigning for women who are running for the United States Congress. No matter where I go, I know what people are saying. I know what they're thinking. When I spend most of my time down on the Gulf Coast, where I'm from, and I don't just go to the quote-unquote restaurants in the French Quarter. I actually go out into the neighborhoods because I know where all of the dive bars are, and I know where to get some good crawfish. I listen to people. They want us to hear them. They are in pain. And the pain is not just, you know, what I call pocketbook issues. They are feeling more and more lost by a culture that doesn't reward the kind of hard work that they're doing each and every day of their lives. And we need to find ways to enrich them with a better quality of life, not just by giving them a pay raise, which would be a start, but we need to give them some time off to be with their families, to relax, to rest, and to take a breather. Last night on Twitter, I said, Donald Trump is spending 24/7 tweeting to distract us. I don't have on my TV during the day. You know why? I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I'm sick of it because all you're hearing is, he tweeted, he did this. I have never talked this much about a president in my entire life. And I've had Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Carter, Reagan, George Bush 41, Clinton, George Bush 43, and Obama. And yet this president has sucked all of the air out of most of us because we're constantly reacting to his lies. We're constantly reacting to his derogatory statements. And I tell you, we need a better politics in 2018. And it starts with people like you spreading the good news, and also challenging those who are running to give us a platform that includes everybody. and not just what I call the top 10%. We can make changes in this society, but we got to get back out there and do it the old-fashioned way. Go door to door and look like we really want to win.
Donna, I don't know how to thank you for this. I know how valuable your time is. I thank you, thank you, thank you. I want you to have a safe trip on to the pond. Are you going to say hi to Meghan Markle and Prince? I forget what his name is, but send them
I
our.
hope they're on their honeymoon and not waiting for me to show up, because God knows I can't help them in that department. But I'll tell you what I am going to do.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to represent my country as best I possibly can. I'm going to lay out what's before us in this 2018 midterm election. I'm going to speak about the need for more vigilance when it comes to cybersecurity, so that we can protect our data and protect ourselves from future attacks. More importantly, it's always a great opportunity to go to a country that is an ally, and a country where I have plenty of friends who are working abroad. So I'll have a beer and think about you.
Donna,
Great.
That's great, because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go home and tell my wife that I may, God forbid anything happens to her, I may have a shot with Donna Brazile.
There you go.
That's
tell your wife that I'm not looking, I'm not seeking, I'm not stirring. But if she's around, I would love to meet her, because I'm sure she has some stories about you that need to be told as well.
Amen.
Amen. Donna, I can't thank you enough. You, and I'm serious about this. I joke around a lot. You're a hero. You are a powerful woman. You're an accomplished woman. You're a salty and spicy woman, and you have the fire in your belly. And I think more Americans need to follow you and have that fire, whatever side of the aisle and issues they're on. We need people with passion in this country, and I can't thank you enough for spending this time with us. You're just great. I don't know what else to say. And everyone else.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all of the great work that you're doing. Please put all of what I call the I's and the T's together on that wonderful proposal for service, and make sure you share it with me, and I will do my very best to share it with others as well.
Will do. Thanks,
Thank you, Donna. Have a safe trip.
Thank you all.
Everyone,
God bless you all, and God bless our great country.
Amen. God bless us. Everyone else, stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.